Hi, my name is Tara. I am the founder of Big Talks Workshops. It's an organization dedicated to sexual health across the lifespan. And today I'm joined by my friend Kira, who is a 5 Rhythms teacher and also a body wisdom coach. Kira, welcome. And is there anything you want to say in introduction before we begin our dialogue?
Sure. Hi. I'm excited to be with whoever is out there right now. A little bit about me. We kind of refrain from using the word teacher because we are facilitating and in some ways leading, but really the work is done by participants. So I facilitate the 5 Rhythms. I also facilitate another somatic practice called FEM, and I'm in the process of creating my own body of work, which I'm going to be unveiling very soon.
Oh, that's exciting. Cool. All right, well, thanks so much for joining me today. So you may or may not know, I come from a therapeutic background, so I am a trauma therapist and a sex therapist. And I was really interested in having this conversation with you because I'm sure we use a lot of the same knowledge and a lot of the maybe even same techniques, but we come from it from such different points of view. So I'm interested to see what overlaps and what doesn't. So my question that we're going to start with today for you, and then we'll just see wherever the dialogue takes us, is how do you let your body lead?
Okay. So I'm going to answer that personally, but I'm going to start from the very general so that it's relatable to anybody who might be watching or listening. You have very likely heard phrases like, the body doesn't lie, the body tells the story. There's a lot of information that is out there right now about the power of the body in the sense that we can almost think of ourselves as really being comprised of 3 separate areas that are very much intertwined but are separate in terms of their focus. One of them being the body, the other one being the mind, and then the third one being the spirit. And so because of the way that we as humans have constructed the reality that we share together, we spend a lot of time in our minds, validating the mind, discounting information or sensing that we might get from other sources because everything has to make sense, it has to be logical, it has to be provable, it has to line up with what has already been proved about the known world. So, yet there's the body. Very persistent, always completely in service of us, and with its own set of wisdom. And so, how do I personally let the body lead? I have so many ways of going about that. One way that a lot of you out there that love movement, whether it be, dance or whether it be sports, is really by giving way to the body. Just creating those times when it can just be my body. It's almost as though I'm a pre-verbal human. It's just my body. Thoughts come in and out, but I don't really pay attention to them because I am dancing. For some of you, it could be running. It could be on the elliptical. It could be kickboxing. But there's those moments when you almost transcend yourself as you typically know yourself because you're just within the body. And so the thing that keeps me coming back to that is the enormous pleasure and healing and respite that I get from that. And then of course I deal with the inertia because like many modern people, I have this like hidden slothful nature, because we're expected to be so busy all the time.
Yeah, I think it's just that we're exhausted.
And yeah, but then there's also like some of us just have this sneaky rebellion that is part of our nature, because it was drilled into us so deeply and so completely, conform,
Right.
that one of the ways that we held on to ourselves is by, seizing those opportunities to sneakily not be conforming.
Yeah.
And so for me, it can get expressed into sloth. So sometimes when I'm like the most like needing respite from this loop of thoughts that just, it's almost, like terrorizing me. I can't get off this train. The thing that will really bring me through that is really by giving way to the body, and yet that's the thing I want to do the least. Give me the television,
Right. Yeah.
Give me something that I have to look up on the internet, so now I can look that up, and now I'm like lost for hours looking up all these other things.
Yeah.
But knowing what I know, I just come back to it. Even if it means, okay, I'm going to set the timer, you're just going to move for 5 minutes, and of course that 5 minutes then becomes 10, becomes 15, and however long that it takes for me to completely empty out. And so
I like the 5 minutes. That feels like very achievable.
Yeah.
Right? And especially for newer folks who may not be used to movement, might feel like a little weird, like they're just like what am I doing? Is this right? So, like 5 minutes feels doable for that too.
And the other thing that it's really another trick is just one body part. Movement can happen with you just sitting on your couch and saying, I want to explore all the ways that I can move my wrists. Right? What happens when my wrists are fluid? There's like this continuous motion to my wrist. And what happens when it's staccato, and when it's chaotic, and when it's just soft, subtle movements. And then what happens when I just let myself rest in a pattern? That just itself can become a kind of meditation and can take you out of yourself. So I think the other thing, about us as modern people is there's this idea that things need to be big, they need to be dramatic in some way. And so if you can just really kind of appreciate yourself in the way that your body does, your body really does. I know you, like all of us, may have many complaints about your body. But believe it or not, even when you're like incredibly abusive to your a body, you just let your addictions run rampant, your body is still really appreciative of you and will always find ways to do what you're asking it to do, however much effort it may take on your body. So something that I really love about just doing a suit, how I'm just right now, it's just my shoulder. It's my shoulder is leading and my body is resting and just letting my shoulder lead. That brings me into such deep appreciation of my shoulder. Like I could almost cry in gratitude of all the things that my shoulders have allowed me to do. And that's another way that I'm mentally and letting my body lead, because I want my body to know that I really treasure it. I'm 61. My body has been serving me for 61 years.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Like 61 years. It has not failed me. It has not given up. It has not said, oh, God, you're such a freaking slowpoke. I just can't stand you. No, my body has been like, oh, you need to move slow right now? I'm with you. Oh, you're late for something and you want me to move fast? I'm with you. Like my body is just there. So appreciate your body.
Yeah.
That's another way to let your body lead.
Yeah. I mean, that's so important. I feel like people are finally like getting the idea, but so many clients, but like, how do you do it, right? So what has that journey been like for you? It seems like you are really in allyship with your body. Yeah, how has that journey been for you?
Well, I feel really lucky, honestly, to live at the time that I'm living, because I can really see how much ideas have changed. You know, when I look at young people and the things that they're doing, I'm like, wow, that helps me up my appreciation game. You know, for example, when I look at someone like Lizzo and the fact that she dances full out and she has auditioned and looked for plus size dancers, like that didn't exist, and I was not as heavy as I am now when I was younger. But I knew, and I was not, you know, like obese at that point, but I was not slender. I knew that a career as a dancer wasn't going to be accessible for me, even though dance was something that I really loved. But for someone who's in the situation that I was, that's completely possible. Like that, are you kidding me? That's possible. So some of the appreciation has come from seeing how the world has changed. In my other life, I'm an assistant principal in a high school, and one of the things that I love to share with my students is everything is made up. Everything is made up. It might not seem like it, but in the 70s when I was growing up, Twiggy was the model at that time.
She was really skinny,
She's
right?
really skinny, but what was really prized was the fact that she, at that time, had a really androgynous body.
Okay.
Women like to be able to, like, to be really sexy meant wearing really skimpy tops, form-fitting. Sometimes, you know, with, if it was a button-up shirt, unbuttoned all the way to the belly button. You really can't, you have to be extremely small busted for that to work and look classy and sexy, but not slutty. Okay, because when you have, they could even be small breasts, but they're kind of, you know, jiggling and moving around. that ups the slut factor. Okay, you know, people start wondering what you're doing. Okay, you must be advertising something. You know, like, so when, you know, I was in my 30s and people were paying cash money for a bigger chest, I was like, but how are you going to run for the bus? Like, what is going on here? And that's when I realized, like, that's not true, that there's this only this one kind of beauty. And if you didn't, you know, develop to have really small, close to the body breasts, sorry, you lost the race. Like, no, that's not true. People make decisions all the time about what's beautiful, what's not beautiful. And so, having lived this long, I've got a chance to see that and, like, really kind of know that in my DNA. That you, each of us, well, part of your job, and for, depending on who you are, it might be a more challenging task than for some others. But part of your job is to deeply and truly appreciate yourself. Because at least in this life, that's what you got. Okay, so you don't appreciate, that's on you.
Yeah, that's true.
You're not getting another self, so
yeah.
You know.
How have those combos gone with young people?
I think it's sometimes you're just like dropping a seed, and you know that they don't have the existing schema to attach it to anything. Because, you know, just a quick little technical thing is that the way that our brains work is that when we get new information, for us to make sense of it, our brain kind of attaches it to what's called schema. And we have to already have something pre-existing for something to come in, and we're like, it makes sense right away. It's kind of like for those of you who were around when there were VCRs and they came with these manuals, and you would know every word, but you didn't know it in that context. So it didn't make sense. I'm supposed to put this where? Like you would just keep rereading it because you didn't have pre-existing schema. So when I say that to them, I know that it's going to be one of those things that 5 years from now, it's going to make sense. And they're going to be like,
the trust,
somebody told me that. Who was it?
Yeah. And also just the way that you model, right? Love for your body. Honestly, like, I have never heard someone talk so positively about their bodies. I feel like people are always like, I know I should, but I don't, right?
Well, the thing is that we all have the inner life, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, okay, so another thing, just to get a little technical here. So what evolutionary anthropologists tell us is that we as humans, depending on who you are, you'll have anywhere from 40,000 to 80,000 individual thoughts every day. That's just how we are. We're always thinking, right? But no matter who you are, whether you have 40,000 thoughts or you have 80,000 thoughts, according to them, the research, 80% of your thoughts are likely to be negative.
Right.
So there's an evolutionary reason for this. Early humans, obviously, they didn't have big teeth, they didn't have claws, they didn't even have fur. So they were able to survive in part because they were really fear-based creatures. So, oh my God, what's that twig? Could be a saber tooth. Let's run!
Yeah.
Someone, they probably out to get me. So, and because we're fear-based, we're easily manipulated, which we can kind of see in the political arena. But what's so beautiful about us is that we have so much choice. So once you know, wow, 80% of my thoughts are likely to be negative, you can choose to either not pay attention. Something that I like to do is that thought helpful? Because even if the thought is true, is it helping me? Is it actually going to make me do better or make me feel demoralized?
Right.
So, but the other thing is, half of those thoughts are not even true. They're not based on reality. It's just, this endless game that your ego plays with you. So, I'm really aware of that. I'm really aware that we're amazing. Humans are amazing. Extremely, extremely messy. Very, very messy.
Yep.
We really are really cruel to one another. Many of us are not doing what we came here to do, because I believe that we came to here as beings because we wanted to be together. I believe that was choice, but you came to a place of polarity, a place where you can't know one without knowing the other. You can't really know prosperity without knowing scarcity. But we don't want to know scarcity, but you can't actually know that this is prosperous without having known lack. So we came to a place of polarity. We came to a place of incredible diversity, right? Especially our species. Like, we just rival everyone in this myriad of ways that we show up in the world, with endless arrays of complexion and body type and size, and some people have 4 different textures on one head. Like, we're amazing. But we came to a place where that was the rule of law, and yet we despise it. You're not like me. You can't have the same value that I have because you're not like me. Like, what? What is that? No. Then why did you come on Earth? No one told you to come here. We came, and then we're not even doing what we're supposed to be doing. I mean, of course, this is what I believe, okay? And I'm not saying you have to believe, but I believe there's a lot of choice. And
I agree. But also, those are my beliefs.
Yeah. You chose to come here, so enjoy it. Enjoy the fact that wow, there's just eye candy everywhere.
Oh, I love that reframe. It's eye candy. Yeah.
Yeah. So, So I don't know. I guess I have a part of my nature, even though I am melancholic, and I definitely grew up in a melancholic family, I have a real love for this life. You know? Like, even the fucked up, like, shitty parts of it. Like, we all came through the pandemic together. And for some people, especially, some of the families that I work with, it was a really, really horrific time. And then because we're so fear-based and so have a tendency to actually believe that we're like somehow separate, like from each other, and that we didn't like try to think about like what will happen when we open, right? So I know I'm kind of jumping all over the place, and I'm going to get back on topic after this last statement.
Well, it makes sense,
I just feel like, the kind of violence and stuff that erupted in the city didn't have to happen, because this really could have been anticipated. We have a lot of smart people that understand, as you do, right? Because you're a trauma counselor, who could have been called in by the governor, called in by the mayors across the state. Okay, what are some things that we might need to look for, and how can we support people that have gone through the most trauma? A family that lives in a small space and normally would be going out, and so they wouldn't be rubbing up against each other, but now there's 5 of them all in the same space at the same time, and the kids are trying to use this one computer to do their schoolwork, and now somebody lost their job. Like, come on. Like, what is going to happen with that? Because most of us haven't been taught what to do with powerful emotions.
Right.
And or our natural aggression, because humans are aggressive. That's why we survived. If we just were like quiet little peaceful church mouse, then I don't think we would still be here.
Right. We would have got eaten up by like lions and stuff.
So we're aggressive, and people have, like, you can't just expect that you can go on the subway where you're anonymous and get into screaming matches with people as your outlet.
I think we're survivalists, like that's built into our evolution, that we want to survive.
Yes.
And sometimes I feel like you can feel that in your body, right? Sort of like reframing panic. Is that's just your body really being like, I want to be here, like I want to survive, whatever's happening right now, like make it stop, because it's going to make me not survive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then the other thing that I would add to what you're saying, bringing it back to the body, is it's the thought that makes it what it is, right?
Yeah.
Because is there really a difference between in terms of how it's the sensations in your body, is there really a difference between excitement and anxiety?
Right. No.
Right? It's the thought.
Yeah.
It's the thought. So it's so if you have the thought, then the body is going to want to go into homeostasis. It's not going to want those sensations.
Right.
But if you have the thought that this is exciting, this is intriguing, then the body is like, whoa, oh my God, I like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I discovered with rollerblading, because I was, and this kind of gets into your work as a sex therapist, because years ago, I didn't keep it off, but I went through this phase where I was rollerblading everywhere, and I lost close to 100 pounds. And when I was right at the beginning of that, I was learning to rollerblade, And it was one of those things where I was, rollerblading down the street, and I was beginning, so I was actually rollerblading on the sidewalk. And then I turned the corner, and it was this steep decline. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And there were these men that were walking, they were far away, but they were walking toward me. And so I started yelling, get out of the way, because I can't stop myself, I might fall on you. And they were like, oh, fall on me, baby. And I was like, oh no, I'm going to crush you. And they were like, crush me, baby. And so then I started laughing.
Right.
And so then it went from thrilling,
Yeah.
From anxiety to real excitement. It was thrilling. And,
Yeah.
and
that's such a good experience to have in your body, to recognize, that it was the thoughts of it. It was the context that makes it scary or not. Yes.
Yeah.
And I love how you knew that in your body.
Yeah. Well, when you're moving that fast,
Yeah.
kind of like, you kind of like your thoughts have to get out of the way.
Right.
The body has to take over to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many activities, right? Like dance, like sports, that there's some things that just force you into your body. And I think that can also be a really good starting place, something where you really have to shut your mind down in order to be able to do whatever you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
So Kira, this was fabulous. I feel like we could talk all day about this.
Yeah.
Especially us.
Yeah.
We could talk a while. I'm sorry. Usually I let people know this ahead of time, but so you're going to do it on the fly if you feel comfortable. Of course,
Okay.
If not, it's fine. So the last thing that I like to ask folks before we close, but actually I think you'll be really good at it, is what are 3 things that you love about yourself?
Wow. 3 things that I love about myself.
And since you didn't think about it before, if you want to take a minute.
Okay. I love that I am generous. This is something I learned from my dad. It's one of the things I appreciate about my dad. I have watched my dad borrow money in order to loan money. Like if you call my dad and you tell him that you're going to be evicted, he's like, okay, all right, let's, like he just has a really generous spirit, and I really love that about my dad. And I feel that that was one of the things that I really took from him and made that my own. I think it's very important to be generous. Generous to yourself and generous to other people, and I love that about myself. I love that I look young. I love that about myself.
You do.
I didn't, I was just told that it's the over estrogen production that keeps me looking young, but it also makes it very hard for me to lose weight. And I'm like, okay, you gotta take the bitter with the sweet.
That's true, yeah. And I love how you rep your age and you're like, and I look young. I appreciate that.
Something else I love about myself, I really love that I am really creative in lots of different ways. I'm creative in terms of physical movement. I'm a really good dancer. I'm creative in terms of language and wordplay. I'm creative in terms of interacting with young people. I really do love my role as an educator. I am creative in terms of problem solving, in terms of creating win-win situations, and creative in terms of reframing things, because I really do refuse to be a victim. Even when there's systems that I don't know how much effect that I can have, but I just keep reframing it for myself, because I don't know what other people are choosing to do, but I really did not choose to be a victim. I chose to be triumphant.
So powerful, yes. All right, cool. Do you want to like share anything, or I can definitely put it in the post? How would you like to do that?
So you can find me. My website is Shaking Spirit Waves. A question that I like to ask people is, can shaking your booty lead to salvation? I really believe that it can. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and I think it's on Facebook it's Kira Denise Foster-Baugh, but on Instagram it's at Kira Foster-Baugh, and so I would love to hear from you.
Yeah, and definitely on Instagram she's tagged in the posts, and yeah, we'll put your website also in the post. And thank you so much for coming here. I really appreciate it.
You're so welcome.
Yeah. Okay, great. So I will see you guys next month. Thanks for joining us.